Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. I'm Paul Listic. We begin this morning here in Chicago, where tensions continue to run high over the arrival of hundreds of more immigrants and asylum seekers every week. Thousands are still sleeping on police district floors, and the mayor's proposed base camps are not anywhere near being ready. Now, residents across the city have voiced concerns over some of the proposed shelter locations. Meanwhile, the mayor and city council are trying to figure out how to keep up with the ballooning costs of caring for those coming here. 3 alders and some other city and state leaders traveled to the southern border this week. They wanted to see firsthand what's happening as people cross into the country. And they wanted to gain some insights on how border towns are dealing with the same issues Chicago is now experiencing. Well, I sat down and spoke with 6th Ward Alderman and Reverend William Hall on Friday, right after he returned from the trip off the plane. You literally have just returned from visiting 4 towns, El Paso, San Antonio, McAllen, Brownsville, along the Texas border, dealing with the migrant question. Talk to me about what you saw, what you learned.
Well, McGowan and Brownville, we cut that short to get back here because of the matters that we need to urgently get to our mayor and then hopefully get to Washington, D.C., because what I saw was a failed border policy. Common sense border policy is what we need. What I saw was the abandonment of funds in Chicago, but a well-funded operation in El Paso as well as San Antonio. What I saw were children with no parents. What I saw was a huge security base ran by Border Patrol as well as Homeland Security, in which 1,600 people were behind a barbed wire fence in huge tents getting processed. And what I also saw was distress. And yet, I saw people working together. I saw non-for-profits working together in a city that is embracing this with the support of the federal government as well as non-for-profits to get it done.
Well, and as you mentioned, El Paso, they've been able to manage 8,000 migrants. Now, we've got about 10,000 more than them, if not more at this point, but they do get federal funding. Is that, in your view now, is that the key?
That's the key. Common sense border policy, and we need an immediate aid package from the President of the United States. Today, he's writing a check for $105 billion. What would Chicago be like if he gave 10% of that to deal with a border crisis that's caused by no border policy? El Paso does something unique. Only 1% of those who are crossing the border stay in El Paso. Everybody else says, hey, I'm seeking asylum. This is what asylum seeking looks like. You cross the border and you say where you want to go. And so Chicago is the place. They have friends, family, sponsors that are already here, but most of all, they want to stand in front of a judge and state their case.
Well, one of the ways they got that funding was because there was a declaration of a federal disaster, and that's what it took to get the funding. Is that what needs to happen for Chicago? Are we at that stage?
Absolutely. We need the President of the United States to not just come to Chicago for fundraisers. He needs to go to the police stations. We need the President to go to the schools where classrooms are overcrowded now because you have an influx of bilingual students. I just went to Benjamin Mays about 3 weeks ago and sat with a student from Portugal, and they didn't have the translators. We were speaking through iPads. These are the things that come when you have a failed border policy and no federal aid package, and that's why we need that ASAP.
And you know the phrase, it takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
So what kind of, they must be using, in Texas, they must be using a lot of not-for-profit groups and entities. What kind of things did you see along those lines, and do we have those resources here?
So what I saw was a federal government that funded those cities, and from that fund, that's how the non-for-profits are able to do the work. In San Antonio, I met with the mayor, and in a side conversation, I asked him, how do you manage this crisis? He said, we get government support. And from that government support, Catholic Charities has done a yeoman's job. The CEO in San Antonio of Catholic Charities comes from Chicago, spent 20 years here. He sleeps in the shelter because that's how many people are coming across the border, but they're funded. And the funds are running out November, I believe, of 2024. They're making an appeal, but they're making an appeal and they're getting support, not like we're getting in Chicago. We need that.
It's also been reported that the migrants who arrive in El Paso specifically are saying they want to come to Chicago. And did you get any insight? Is it about because they have family and friends here, or are they just hearing that there's services? What's the draw for Chicago?
So when you cross the border, again, you're seeking asylum. Asylum means you're leaving your country, fleeing because of some reason, political, some reason, danger. And so when they cross the border, you go through those base camps of security and you say, hey, I want to come. You pick many cities. Chicago was on the board, New York was on the board, Los Angeles, even saw Pittsburgh and Kansas. But we're leading the way because, again, this is a city of opportunity. But what we're not witnessing is a policy that makes this make sense. And so as people are coming to Chicago, they're getting misinformation. Let's be clear about this. You got people coming through the forests. You got people that are dying at the border, kids without parents. And so one of the reasons why they pick Chicago is because we're the city of big shoulders. However, this is international law. They can go wherever they want. What goes wrong, though, is when they leave that camp in that barbed wire fence, you have buses. They don't know where to go. The misinformation comes through TikTok, it comes through WhatsApp app, and the governor has an operation to send misinformation so that they can come to Chicago in distress only to get here. And we've seen people leave now. The messages begin to get back. Don't come. It's dangerous here in Chicago in no space.
Now, you weren't the only alderman who went. You were joined by your colleagues, Pat Dowell.
No, she didn't make it.
Oh, she didn't make
no,
it?
She didn't
okay,
make
she
it.
was supposed to.
Yeah, Alderman.
So you had Byron Sigcho Lopez,
and Alderman
Lamont Robinson.
Yeah,
so did you all, on the way home, did you talk? Do you speak with a unified voice now that you're back?
Yeah, it's Alderman Robinson who really sparked the conversation and reminded us, hey guys, we need a common sense border policy. It was Byron Sigcho Lopez who's the anchor in working with non-for-profits in his ward, who really struck the conversation of better utilization of Catholic charities. And then I come in the anchor and saying, let's agitate, let's shake the tree, because Congress and the president must send the aid, and we must have the policy to couple it.
You know, one of the gripes you hear from the leaders here is that Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, he's just sending these people here. It's almost like the pain is the point. You know, there's no warning, there's no notice. Did you have any discussions with the leaders you met in Texas to say, work with us, we're going to help you, but you need to work with us?
See, there was no hostility. El Paso's mayor, he gets it. El Paso's mayor is doing it right. Same thing with the county officials in El Paso. Same thing in San Antonio, because they're well funded. What we have right here is a governor who literally, when they cross that barbed wire gate, putting them on buses 11, 12 hours, can't urinate, sending buses here with people in distress, misinformation. And we've even seen people leave that bus, because once you leave that security compound, you have nothing. Generic clothes and maybe some Crocs with little shoes you have. Everything is taken away from you but your cell phone and currency. He's playing on the pain, misinformation, and the dehumanization. And so Congressman Jonathan Jackson, we are proud of him because he's called for a federal investigation to this inhumane human trafficking operation that he has.
I was going to ask if you supported that, and so you do.
Absolutely. Jonathan Jackson, who I went to the border with 4 years ago when he was just in this struggle with myself as a humanitarian like his father. And now that's what we need, pressure from Congress to fix this problem.
Any insights you can give us in terms of feedback from the ideas you heard from other Illinois folks who went with you? Illinois Department of Human Services Acting Secretary, Homeless Officer Christine Haley, and Christine Pacion-Zayas, all there representing the governor. What did you hear from them?
Yeah, what we saw and what we heard collectively is that we're not so much disconnected, we're not so much divided on this, we just need to communicate more. And so seeing it from a state level, which is where the federal funding goes, seeing it from a city level, we're able to now even work closer together. As many times as we Zoom and conversate, there's nothing like seeing and gathering the facts together to begin to work even closer together.
So you come back to the budget issues.
Yeah.
And that becomes a relevant question here, because the mayor has made it very clear we care about Chicagoans, we care about other people, this is a city of love, but yet the budget puts $50 million less in it for this migrant issue than it's predicted would be needed to handle it. What is your reaction to that? What, if anything, will be done about that?
First of all, I want to commend my mayor, our mayor. He's done a great job at looking at the dignity of this same lineage that the San Antonio mayor, the mayor of El Paso, see human life and they respect life. But what our mayor is now beginning to see, even with these facts, is that we need the president, before we have the DNC prom, we need the president to come and send the aid needed. He can solve this problem with an aid packet. He can literally shift the direction to what we need. And so our mayor, he's doing a yeoman's job. He sent us there no different than what the president did when he sent the Secretary of State on his behalf. And so now we have the facts. And I trust our mayor. I believe that he has assembled the team to get the job done.
So we know that the governor, I think mayor, signed on a letter that went to President Biden asking him for this help. We already talked earlier that we need that declaration of a federal disaster to get that money. If that doesn't happen and we've cut the money for that budget, what do we do?
Well, you know, I live by principles of faith. I believe that it will happen because there's too many people in Chicago that do not want Chicago to turn in the direction. And I believe that the same way buses are coming to Chicago from Texas, we as a united front from Chicago, business, faith, ordinary 9-to-5 people, labor, need to get on the bus and go to D.C. As Chicago go, so does the nation. And so if Chicago is shifting in the direction of getting Congress to pass a common sense border policy and a president to give us an aid packet, more and more people will get on the bus and go to Congress and go to the White House and say, give us what we need, because this is a failed policy at a federal level that's destroying local cities.
And coming up next on WGN TV Political Report, more help from Springfield isn't likely. With state lawmakers headed to the Capitol this week, we've got a preview of the fall veto session ahead. And still to come later this half hour, more chaos on Capitol Hill, Congress paralyzed as Republicans continue to disagree on a new House Speaker. That happening while President Biden asked for more aid to Israel and Ukraine. Don't go anywhere.